So, here's a question. Why am I playing Pong? I mean, you all know that Pong was an arcade game released in 1972 by Atari, but why am I playing it? You see, there's a book that I am rather obsessed with called 1001 Video Games You Must Play Before You Die. Pong is in this book. It's not the first one, but I chose something very simple so I could concentrate. I am the pedal that's jittering on the left right now. But I have been obsessed with this book for quite a while, and I'm not entirely sure why, besides the fact that it's quite horrible. You see, this book has a lot of problems. I made 2 reviews of it that I will link to on my description. Yes, I made 2 reviews. The book has 2 editions, and I've reviewed each edition. And both of them have major problems. And ever since I've read this book and was disappointed with some of their selections and some of their omissions, I've decided that I wanted to make my own 1001 video games list just for ha-has, and it's become one of the longest side quests of my life. The problem with doing this is that the book has suggested some pretty interesting games, and I need to know which ones are worthy of keeping and which ones would probably be dumped. Pong is probably an easy yes. It's a very historically significant video game. It's not the first one ever made, but it's the first one that was ever commercially successful. And it hasn't aged a day. It's still really fun. Although this is not the arcade version. I am playing the Atari Vault version. The points go up to 11, I believe. So, here's what I'm going to do on Challenge Accepted. I'm going to play through every single one of these games to completion. That doesn't mean 100%, it just means to completion. It varies depending on the game. And I will give it a ranking. Yes or no, basically. Yes, no, or a sequel is better for some games. Because one of the reasons I didn't want to do this particular challenge is because there are some games that I know I'm wasting my time with. For example, both Animal Crossing and Animal Crossing Wild World are in the book. If you're new to the Animal Crossing series, the only one you should play is New Leaf. Seriously, that is the only one. But there are so many games that I know aren't worth playing. I'm probably going to go through them just because I'm a sucker for completion, but... Oh yeah, the Atari Vault version of Pong, I don't know if this is accurate to the actual arcade cabinet, but there are a few glitches. The ball can sometimes go where the paddles can't. If there is a recommended version of Pong, I don't know, like, Pong has been on so many systems, you could probably play it on your calculator. I'm doing something like this to try and keep Challenge Accepted alive. Doing every single PlayStation games was getting a little bit tedious. I didn't find much of a reason to, because there are so many mediocre games for it. But in 1001 Video Games You Must Play Before You Die, well, theoretically, every game should be wonderful, or at least be interesting. A spoiler alert, no, not every single one of them is very good. Like, there's a lot of filler in the book. Sometimes when there's 2 in a series, they'll just go with both of them. I mean, for an example that everyone likes to use, the book has 4 Guitar Heroes. And it doesn't have the only Guitar Hero it should, which is Guitar Hero 3, which I believe is the best one. Yeah, see, I can't go up there. The Atari Vault has a bunch of games. I think it's a good value. Not a lot of people seem to like it, but yet you have to have an appreciation for old arcade games and old Atari games, which I definitely do. And it will allow me to knock about a dozen of the games off the list anyway. Boop, beep, boop. Honestly, some people look down on Pong, but no, I could probably play this all day. It really is still fun today. And another good fact about Pong is that it's the best sports game ever made. Ever. No sports game has ever gotten better. I'm kidding, of course, but I don't like sports games. Not many people do. And we'll get to that as I get into the many sports games on the list. And here comes the plane. So how long am I going to play Pong? I don't know, considering I have already won. The Atari Vault has an achievement that I have already unlocked. Play a perfect game of Pong. Just get 11 points without them scoring 1. Which is not exactly a walk in the park, considering how glitchy and how finicky this thing can be. See. And sometimes you can get the computer into a repetitive spiral where they just lose points. I'm going to try to do that. Actually, I don't think they're trying. It just happens on its own sometimes. Now remember, I picked Pong first because it's very, very simple. See, I can concentrate on the game and talk at the same time. I mean, doing a turn-based strategy would probably also work as well. I'm also going to try to explain the game to the best of my abilities. There we go. Alright, don't move. No! Also, there are games in the book that are very, very similar, which makes me quite hesitant to reserve my judgment. For example, the book has both Breakout and Arkanoid. And Arkanoid is essentially a enhanced version of Breakout. But if you went alphabetically or chronologically, you'd get through Breakout first. And there's nothing wrong with Breakout. Breakout is a fine game. I would probably say yes to its inclusion if Arkanoid didn't exist. So I'm okay. Yeah, this is fine. This will work. But yeah, I don't want to have to revoke ratings retroactively. Once again, this is probably not the version of Pong you should be playing. I would recommend one that isn't quote-unquote accurate. You could probably find it top search result on Google. I just wanted to play this one because it's the Pong that I legally own, which is a nice little touch. Oh yeah, and there's also that little thing. Some games in the book I'm pretty sure are impossible to play, like Mud 1, the first multi-user dungeon. I have no idea if that is possible to play. There are many downloadable titles that you can't access anymore, and we'll deal with that when we get to that. But 1001 games should be a cakewalk, right? You know, unless they're incredibly difficult or tedious or whatever. And if you're wondering, I'm going with the 2013 version of the book, not the 2010. Because while it did remove some interesting games, the ones that it removed a bunch of like the sports titles that came out the year of the book's release that were just latest is best logic. Like, for example, in the year 2018, there is no reason in hell to play the Madden that came out in 2010. Or 2009, whatever. And, of course, there are exclusively multiplayer games, which are going to be fun. And a lot of MMOs. I have no idea what to do about the MMOs, especially the ones that are no longer active. Like, there's actually much difficulty when it comes to constructing a list like the 1001 video games that you must play before you die, because of the medium. For example, Guild Wars 2, when it came out, would easily go on the list, but it's an MMO, and if the audience for it has been dying, what do? Some of the most genre-defining games ever conceived don't really work anymore. They don't age very well. I mean, there's kind of a boomerang to that, which I will explain later. There's a lot of stuff I will explain later. We got plenty of time. Like, plenty and plenty of time. But yeah, and of course, video games have a history of disappearing. I mean, I'm not just talking about games going offline or whatever, but that is a good example, though. Chrome Hounds is a game that a lot of people liked, but you can't play it in its full form anymore because it was online only and the servers went down, or something like that. Sometimes games are designed with a certain interface, like Centipede. This has Centipede in it. But Centipede was meant to be played with a trackball, which I do not have. This game simulates a trackball because you can move the mouse, which I'm doing right now. I'll try playing with the arrow keys now and see if that changes. Yeah. So, I don't know. But as for Pong, I think it's yes. Although I wouldn't advise spending money on Pong. If you have the scratch to play Pong, I would recommend looking at your calculator. Maybe that's got a version of Pong in it. Yeah, I'm much better with the mouse. The mouse is more fluid. Say I can move faster and maybe the mouse is more, or maybe the keys are more accurate. I'll try winning with the up and down arrows just to prove that I can. I'm an expert at Pong. Yeah. Make Pong an esport or something. Yeah. If you want a more thorough explanation of Pong and maybe help yourself find the best version of it, I would recommend watching the Angry Video Game Nerds episode on it. It goes into quite an analysis of all the different types of Pongs. It's an extremely simple game. Hell, if you really want to play it and you don't have a calculator or the internet, you could probably code it yourself. At the start of this list, just to kind of rack the numbers up, I'm probably going to stick to the simple games. Not necessarily arcade games, but games that, like puzzle games and games that don't have a definite ending. Of course, some games can be very obtuse and very, very difficult to understand. I will beat you, computer, with my arrow keys. This is hypnotizing. Don't you agree? Also, for the most part, if possible, I am going to try to replicate the original's controls. Like, I have USB controllers for just about every single console that you can get a USB version of. So, that'll come in handy. Also, if there's multiple entries in a series in the book, I'll probably tackle them both in the same episode, if possible, or at the very least back to back. Like, for example, Gunstar Heroes and Gunstar Superheroes, or Advance Wars and Advance Wars Dual Strike. Then again, that'll only tell me which is the best version in the book. There's always the possibility that the best version is the one that they didn't include at all. With the aforementioned Guitar Hero example. They have Guitar Hero 1, Guitar Hero 2, Guitar Hero World Tour, and Guitar Hero Metallica. The only one that they don't have is Guitar Hero 5 and Guitar Hero 3. From what I understand, Guitar Hero 3 has the best playlist and it was the most popular. And it is my personal favorite. I can win this. I know I can win this. Yeah, I'm the only guy in the world who will spend fucking hours playing Pong. Look, I do have a passion for video games and video game history. Like, if things would turned out a little bit differently, I would be very, very comfortable being a video game reviewer. Especially with how video games have gotten in this day and age. Come on, you. It's all tied up. Who's gonna win? Come on. Come on. Yeah. And I have succeeded. I do stand by. Pong is a very fun game.